What's up, guys, and welcome back to 5 Things Friday. So, a couple of my previous 5 things lists, I don't know why I do these in lists of 5, but some of the earlier ones that I've done that were accepted pretty well were my 5 things you should know before you buy a Grand Prix and 5 more things you should know about a Grand Prix, Regal, or Monte Carlo W bodies. So I thought I would try this time the same type of format, but with another car that I know quite a bit about. So this one is going to be 5 things that you should know about the first and second generation Taurus SHO. For these examples, I am not counting the third or fourth generation SHOs, as both of those are pretty significantly different than the first two. And I wanted to keep this more about them. So if you like this format and you'd like to see me do one on the third gen cars, fourth gen cars, or any other cars, make sure you drop me a like. I'll keep an eye on that. If I see more than, say, 20 likes on this video, then I will definitely do one on the third gen cars, and maybe even some other cars as well. Without further ado, number 1. Though the SHO, if you're not familiar with it, does share a lot of chassis, suspension, and braking parts with standard model Tauruses, which makes the replacement parts for them not that expensive, one thing that you should know going into potentially buying one of these cars is that despite the fact the cars themselves are very inexpensive, parts for the engine are not. The engine and transmission in these cars is specific only to first and second generation SHOs, and therefore just about every part that you try to get for the drivetrain is going to be not in stock, and it's going to cost way more than what you would normally see for a standard model Taurus. So that's just something you need to keep in mind if you're looking at getting into these. Number 2, if you do get one, or you're looking at one, and there's a weird sort of a clunking sound that happens and sounds sort of like it's below the floorboards in the front, just be aware that not only is it more than likely a problem with the subframe bolts, but there is a recall kit for these, which as far as I know, you can still get from Ford, but I know you can also pick these up from aftermarket companies. Essentially what happens is they had a problem with the factory, the captured nut at the top that the subframe bolts go into breaking loose, usually because the bolt had rusted and seized to it, and they break loose and spin, nothing holds the bolt still, it makes a lot of noise. I've also seen them rust out the body there, and it's also really common to have the subframe bushings wear out, so things to check in that area. Number 3, and this is another one for people new to first and second generation SHOs, the manual transmission cars. Though a lot of people are probably thinking that's an awesome upgrade because most of the time manual transmissions hold up better than automatics do. Be aware that this particular manual transmission, being the MTX4, which is a slightly beefed up version of essentially the transmission that used to come in the manual transmission tempos, isn't particularly strong. They are known for, first of all, having differential pin failures that cost you an entire transaxle, because usually the pin will just eject itself right through the case. And then the other thing they're known for is if you're modding and building one of these and you get near or over 300 foot-pounds-ish of torque, they will actually strip third gear teeth completely off due to the gear sets not being particularly strong. And best I've heard anyone describe what they think is happening is actually the input shaft bowing and pulling the third gear set away from each other, and then it just strips the teeth right off of it. So another thing to think about. Number 4, and this is the exact same problem I mentioned in my W body video, because this, like probably many cars with factory sunroofs, they are also prone to have sunroof drains get stopped up and leak back into the car. Interestingly enough, the design is very, very similar to W bodies. Essentially, you just have, once again, those drain holes towards the front that can stop up. Now, In SHOs though, there is another thing you have to check for. If you're having water leak in that area or in the floorboards, because they can leak through the A-pillars into the floorboards, another thing you have to watch for is sometimes the drain tubes will actually shrink and pull loose from where they attach to the drains on the sunroof itself, and can cause it to leak basically into the A-pillars. So in those circumstances, you actually have to pull the headliner down and check them that way. I never had that happen specifically on any of my SHOs. I had one stop up once, but that's it. But I have seen a lot of stories of that happen. And number 5, if you don't know first and second gen SHOs and you see one somewhere and it's priced really well, and it probably will be, because like most old American sedans, they're not very expensive nowadays. Please keep in mind that you are going to have to budget in more than likely for the infamous 60 or in later models 100,000 mile service, which includes a valve adjustment, valve cover gaskets, intake gaskets, the water pump and timing belt kit. And it's pretty pricey. If you can work on it yourself, it can be done very reasonably. And honestly, these engines, despite how weird they look, actually aren't that hard to work on. But if you've got to pay someone to do that, just expect it's a really expensive service if you can find a tech that's willing to do it. So even though that's a very small price tag for the car, you just have to keep in mind that some of these types of services for these cars are really expensive. So that was 5 things that you need to know if you're looking at potentially owning a first or second generation SHO. These are not the only things you should know about first and second gen SHOs. I just like to keep these lists down to no more than 5 because I don't want the videos to get too long. But if you guys would like to see me do more videos on SHOs or information about SHOs, or more of these 5 things about whatever car lists, make sure you smack the like button. I'm going to keep up with that, and if I see, like I said, more than 20 on this video at any time, I will make sure to make a follow-up. In the meantime, other things you should know. Shirt still. I know I mention this a lot, but I'm trying to work on doing sort of a giveaway thing for the channel to sort of give back to you guys. However, if any of you have been watching for a while and know, I don't have a lot of resources to do that with. And things like buying these shirts, and we have an SHO shirt by the way, so make sure you check the link so you can see that. But buying those shirts does help support that. Any money I make off of that, I just put right back into the channel. So keep that in mind. Other than that, like this video, drop me a comment, let me know what you think about this or potentially this as an ongoing series. And if you're new here, make sure you are subscribed to my channel and you hit the bell icon. I am out of here for this one, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.